The Alchemy of 4 Cards. The eviction notice was the final nail. It was taped to his door, a white rectangle screaming failure louder than his ex-wife's lawyer ever had. Tyson stood in the hallway of a building that smelled of mildew and lost hope. The notice crumpled in his fist. The disbarment had been the earthquake, the divorce, the aftershock. The foreclosure on his life was now complete. He had $43 in his wallet, a phone with a disconnected number, and a court summons for back child support he couldn't pay. His family's silence had been the verdict. He was irredeemable. The rain that night was biblical. It wasn't weather, it was a solvent trying to wash him into the gutter. He walked, shivering in a suit that was now a costume for a life he'd been fired from. A flicker of matted gray fur darted from a dumpster into a pitch-black alley. A cat, soaked, skeletal. It disappeared into the darkness. A thought, fragile and absurd, punctured his self-pity. It's worse off than me. He stumbled into the alley after it. His patent leather shoe plunged into a freezing puddle. The cat was gone. But there, nestled against a sodden cardboard box, as if placed on an altar, was a book. Its spine was cracked, its cover slick with rain and grime. The title was half scraped away. He could only make out fragments. Pot Limit Omaha and Calculus of Chaos. He picked it up. It fell open to a page. Not about luck, about architecture. Chapter 1. The Bankroll is Fortress. Your stake is not money, it is potential energy. It is the distance between your nerve and the abyss. Guard it with your life. From it, send forth only legions you can afford to lose. The fortress must never fall. The words were a lightning strike in his despair. They spoke of structure, of a system, of a war that could be won not by hoping, but by calculating. He tucked the ruined book inside his jacket, against his heart. It felt like the only solid thing left in the world, the fortress and the legend. He sold the suit. He sold his father's silver cufflinks. He amassed $327. This was not a bankroll. It was a fortress, the last bastion. From it, he carved one. Legion saw $40, the price of a seat in the underground Pot Limit Omaha game, beneath a laundromat. The rest, $287, was sealed in an envelope taped behind a loose bathroom tile. Sacred, untouchable. To spend it on rent or a court fee was to surrender the war before the first battle. The PLO game was a sensory assault. A roar of voices, the clatter of chips, the sweet-sour smell of adrenaline and cheap beer. He was the ghost at the table, pallid and silent. Omaha was not a game. It was a violent calculus. 4 whole cards. You must use exactly 2. The possibilities were exponential, the swings catastrophic. It was the perfect game for a man with nothing left to lose but his mind. He did not play, he observed. For 3 hours he folded. He folded ace king queen jack, double suited, a gorgeous monster in a vacuum, because he was in early position and the players behind him were hyenas. He folded promising wraps, he folded small suited aces. He was mapping the terrain. The manic Russian betting every pot was the czar. The tight old man nursing a single stack was the sentinel. The drunk kid splashing chips was the torrent. He lost his first legion, $40, to blinds and disciplined folds. He felt a grim satisfaction. He had purchased intelligence. The fortress held. Patience was not a virtue. It was intelligence gathering. The sovereignty of the button and the squeeze. Days later, his stomach a hollow pit, Tyson understood the book's core truth. Position was chronology. The dealer button was a crown. In PLO, with its 4 cards and explosive pots, to act last was to hold godhood. He waited. An orbit. 2. His legion was $50 now, a tiny growth. Then, alignment. He was on the button. The czar raised from the cutoff. The torrent called. The pot was swollen, a ripe fruit. Tyson looked at his cards. 9 of diamond, 8 of diamond, 7 of clubs, 6 of heart. A runt hand, a wrap draw, waiting to be born. In early position, trash. On the button, after a raise and a call, it was a weapon. He called. The flop came down like a shout. 10 of heart, 5 of diamond, 4 of club. It missed him completely. No pair. A fragile gut shot to an 8 high straight, but the czar bet pot, a hammer blow. The torrent called, all in. The action was to Tyson. The old Tyson would have folded. The broken accountant saw nothing, but the student of the book saw geometry. He saw the squeeze. He saw 2 players locked in conflict, and himself, the third force, with the power of the final move. He wasn't playing his 6 high draw. He was playing their fear. He raised, yelled out, pot! A bet so large it made the table gasp. He was representing a set, a made straight, the mortal nuts. The czar, faced with this story from the sacred button, scowled and mucked. Tyson took the pot without a showdown. He had won with air and authority. The torrent, eliminated, cursed him. Tyson said nothing. He was learning to speak the language of force. The isolation and the ghost cards. He grew bolder. He learned to isolate. When a weak player, the calling post, limped in, Tyson would raise from late position with a polarized range, either true premiums or speculative swords like Jack of Spade, 10 of Spade, 9 of Club, and 8 of Club. He wasn't raising for value, he was raising for purity. He was carving a chaotic multi-way pot into a clean, heads-up duel where his post-flop precision could dissect his opponent's hope. He was a surgeon, sterilizing the field before the incision. He began to see ghost cards. The flop was a dynamic river valley, Queen of Heart, Jack of Club, 10 of Spade, or a monochromatic plane, 7 of Club, 5 of Club, 2 of Club. He didn't just see his own backdoor flush draw, King of Heart, 4 of Heart on a board with 1 heart. He saw the one his opponent could have. He played combinations. If he held the Ace of Club, he knew he blocked the nut flush. His own cards were not just tools, they were informants, negating possibilities in his enemy's arsenal. Every hand was a battlefield, and he was calculating not just the soldiers present, but the invisible reserves, the discipline of the exit and the coming storm. The book's final, most sacred law was the exit, the discipline to leave. 1. 3 Legion stop loss. If he lost 3 buy-ins, he rose. No rage, no revenge. The session was a closed ledger. 2. The fracture of clarity. If he replayed a bad beat, if the image of his daughter's disappointed face clouded his vision, he quit. He would walk, letting the cold air scour his mind clean. 3. The rotating table. When the weak left and only sharks remained, he cashed out. His edge was not in heroism, but in selection. Weeks bled into months. The envelope behind the tile grew fat. He paid the back rent with crisp hundreds, silencing his landlord. He mailed a money order to his ex-wife's lawyer, a silent message in a legal envelope. The fortress was not just holding, it was expanding. Then came the night of the high-stakes game, the private game in the back room. The buy-in was $1,000, a full quarter of his fortress. His daughter's birthday was in a week. The final court hearing was in 10 days. He needed a verdict. He bought in. The air was different, colder, quieter. The Tsar was there, richer and meaner. And there was a new player, the Iceman, a pro with eyes like chips of flint. For hours, it was a silent war of attrition. Tyson was a shadow, patient, folding, waiting for the confluence. The right hand, the right position, the right opponent. It came past 3 a.m. Tyson, on the button, looked down at Ace of Club, Ace of Diamond, King of Spade, Queen of Club. The nuclear option in Omaha, the Iceman raised from the cutoff. The Tsar called. The pot was massive before the flop. Tyson did not just call. He 3-bet pot, a declaration of war. The Iceman thought for an eternity, then called. The Tsar miraculously called as well. 3-handed, a pot worth over $4,000. The flop burned itself onto the felt. Jack of Club, 10 of Club, 2 of Diamond. A monsoon of possibilities. Tyson had top pair, aces. But more importantly, he had the nut flush draw, and a wrap draw to the Broadway straight. It was a combo draw of terrifying power. The Iceman checked. The Tsar, predictably, bet pot, a massive bullying spear thrust. The action was, to Tyson, the old fear, the fear of the eviction, the court, the failure, whispered to fold, to save his legion. But the book whispered louder. It spoke of equity, it spoke of position, it spoke of committing when the geometry of fate was in your favor. He wasn't holding a pair of aces, he was holding a mathematical scythe. He raised, all in. The sound left the room. The Iceman, his icy composure cracking, went into the tank. He finally folded, showing a frustrated Jack of Diamond, Jack of Heart for a flopped top set. He had been drawing nearly dead against Tyson's whirlwind of outs. The Tsar, with a worse draw, called with a snarl. The turn, 3 of Club, the nut flush for Tyson. The river, 9 of Heart, a brick no straight, but the club on the turn had sealed it. Tyson's ace high flush was the sword that fell. The pot, a mountain of emerald and black, was pushed to him. It was more money than he'd made in 3 months as an accountant. He did not cheer, he did not tremble, he finished the orbit. "Dealer," he said, his voice calm in the ringing silence, "Seat 7 is done." He racked his chips, a tower of solved problems. The Iceman gave a slight, respectful nod. The Tsar would not look at him. Outside, dawn was bleeding into the sky. The same alley cat, now sleek and confident, sat on a wall, watching him. Tyson pulled a $100 bill from his pocket, folded it, and tucked it under a rock near the dumpster. A repayment for a kingdom. He walked toward the courthouse, not as a defendant, but as a man with a proposition. He had gone into the alley following a starving creature, seeking to give a mercy he did not have. He had found a manual for a different kind of mercy, the cold, precise, and beautiful mercy of mathematics. Pot Limit Omaha had not given him luck, it had given him a system, and in mastering the chaos of 4 cards, he had finally and irrevocably put the broken pieces of his life back into an order of his own, fierce, unhurried, and formidable design. The ghost cards were now his. The fortress was unassailable, the war was not over, but for the first time, he was no longer losing. He was calculating.